Okay, please, I want to be sure that everyone can hear me. Please confirm if you can hear me. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I can hear
All
you
right, so
and I can
Jazakumullah
see
khairan.
you.
Okay. Okay, so I can commence at this point then. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for joining this call. Perhaps I'll quickly take these introductory notes. As Muslims, we're guided to balance our worldly responsibilities with our spiritual obligations. And as we all know that life is uncertain, and Islam encourages us to plan wisely for our families and as well as our dependents, right? Unfortunately, many of us have stayed away from conventional, maybe not unfortunately, from conventional life insurance because of the issues of riba, gharar, and maisir. But alhamdulillah, we have takafu, which provides us with a Sharia-compliant alternative. And on this note, we're honored to have an expert who will be simplifying the concepts and also show us how we can benefit without compromising our faith, right? I also want to encourage us to listen attentively and ask questions. Questions that we feel that, are not clear to us. And also take away practical lessons that will help us make faith-conscious financial decisions. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We'd like to call on Brother Sodiq to give us the opening prayer. Brother Sodiq, if you can hear me, can you give us the opening prayer? Okay, I'm not sure you can hear me, so
You
I would
can
like to call
unmute
on.
him. I think you need to
Oh,
unmute him.
okay,
Sorry.
okay.
And also make the guest speaker the co-host.
Okay,
He's unable to unmute.
I was
yeah, so
struggling
I
to unmute
just
myself.
okay, yeah, I
Okay.
think right now.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has made us Muslims and also given us that privilege to be a part of this session. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it a beneficial one. We look forward to learning from our lecturer to tap from his expert knowledge and experience. And we ask Allah to make what would come out of this session a beneficial one. Bismillah al-Fatiha.
Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alamin,
الحمد لله العالمين مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم
صراط الذين
صراط
أنعمت
الذين
عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Amen. Jazakumullah khairan, Malam, for that dua. Yeah, Allah accept it. I would like to quickly just read out the profile of our speaker for today. It's just brief. So Mr. Anyoleye Ismail is a seasoned chartered insurer, AIN, with over 2 decades of professional experience in the insurance industry. He's a fellow of the Institute of Islamic Professional Finance Professionals and holds a postgraduate diploma in Islamic banking, finance, and insurance from Nungu Business School. He currently serves as the Chief Business Development Officer at Nuru Takaful Insurance Limited. He leads strategic growth initiatives aimed at expanding Takaful product, deepening financial inclusion, and driving innovative business solutions in Nigeria's insurance sector. His role involves spearheading corporate, retail, and institutional business development, strengthening stakeholder relationships, and advancing digital transformation strategies for improved customer experience. He previously served as head of retail business at No Takafu, where he successfully established and grew strategic marketing units across Nigeria, significantly contributing to the organization's expansion and market penetration. Beyond his corporate achievement, Mr. Anyole is passionate about Islam finance and human capacity development. His leadership reflects resilience, discipline, and dedication to building ethical, Sharia-compliant finance solutions that empowers individuals, families, and businesses. So permit me to bring onto the virtual podium Mr. Ismail. You have the floor, sir.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. And thanks for the introduction. I will just go ahead and share the slide I want to use, and I will proceed.
Please do.
I want to confirm, can you see my screen?
Yes, please.
Is shared, Abi? Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much for having me this afternoon, and I'm very glad to be amidst you to talk about Thakafu, that's Islamic insurance, an alternative to conventional. And in the process of my communication with the society, I crave the indulgence that I will be using No Takafu Insurance Limited as an example for this particular presentation, which is why I've tagged the topic No Takafu Insurance Limited Operations and Products. But of course, we're going to speak widely to Takafu insurance practice, and of course, using No Takafu as an example, based on what, of course, I work for No Takafu, based on what we have done over time, and the testimonies to that and product that we can offer, that I feel, all things being equal by the special grace of God, is going to benefit the association. Once again, I want to thank you so much for having me. Without further ado, considering the time that, considering the fact that we need to manage time effectively, please just permit me to go straight into the presentation proper. The content speaks to operation of Takafu, of course, which is a very clear-cut alternative to conventional insurance. Then overview of No Takafu Insurance Limited. Then the product that I feel, all things being equal, will serve the purpose of individuals within the this particular family and the family as a whole. Now, be that as it may, let me quickly to what Takafu is, because again, we are all aware of insurance as within the financial sector, and we are conversant with conventional insurance. But we all know that when it comes to the details and the practice of conventional insurance, looking at it critically, it is not Sharia compliant, and it is not what Muslims should go into as it were. When we now say that is not allowed for Muslim, what is the alternative that we have? Simply put, the alternative is Takafu. So what is Takafu? And based on this definition, Takafu is derived from an Arabic word, kafala, which means guarantee or joint guarantee. Now, it is based on mutual assistance amongst the participants that want to pool their resources together, to guarantee themselves against some specified loss. So participants agree to contribute to a common pool, because insurance itself is all about pooling resources together by many to compensate the unfortunate few amongst them that might suffer a loss. So the same way, when we look at Takafu, it is now based on mutual assistance, where participants agree to contribute into a common fund. They agree to contribute to that to mutually guarantee themselves against any defined loss. Now, they are contributing into this common fund to guarantee themselves, but they do not have that expertise to manage that fund. So they call on the Takafu operator to manage that fund on their behalf. First off, when any of them suffer a loss, the Takafu company or the Takafu operator will help indemnify those individuals that have suffered a loss. And all things being equal, which is the unique proposition of Takafu, at the end of the insurance period, whatever that is left in that fund will now be plowed back to participants that do not make a claim within the insurance period as surplus, but we'll get to that. So in a takafu arrangement, the participant contribute a sum of money as a tabaru. That means the concept or the contract of takafu itself, we call it that, we say the contract of donation. And that word donation is what we meant by tabaru. So in a takafu arrangement, the participant will contribute some sum of money as donation into a common fund, which will now be used mutually to assist members against a specified type of loss or damage. An example I can give on this, motor insurance. Several participants can contribute into a pool to take up an insurance policy, a takafu insurance policy for their motor vehicle, so that within that insurance period, if there's an accident or there's a loss or there's a theft to that vehicle, from that pool, those of them that will have suffered loss will be adequately compensated. And at the end of the insurance period, like I mentioned earlier, whatever is left in that pool of funds being managed by the takafu operator, will now be redistributed to those of them that do not make a loss as surplus. Now, this common pool where each participant contributes into, like an operator is engaged to manage and administer the contribution. We call that common pool technically in the takafu arrangement, the risk fund. So that risk fund is meant for two things. One, any of them who suffers a loss within the insurance period will be adequately compensated. Two, whatever is left in that risk fund at the end of that insurance period will be redistributed back to participants that do not suffer a loss as surplus. So when we look at the takafu model of insurance, it is a risk sharing mechanism as against a risk transfer mechanism. Let me quickly explain that. In the conventional insurance practice, the mechanism behind it is risk transfer. And what that simply means is that the insured will transfer its risk to the insurance company and is going to pay a premium for that purpose, so that what he has insured against within the insurance period, if any loss occur, the conventional insurance company will indemnify him, But in the case of takafu, it is a risk-sharing model, which I've just explained. Participants gather their fund in a common pool, purposely to guarantee themselves against any form of loss. That fund they are gathering into that pool is what we call the risk fund, and the contract there is tabaru is being used as a contract, which is a donation contract. So they willingly donate into that common fund to compensate the few among them that might suffer a loss within that insurance period, and whatever is left in that fund after those of them that have suffered a loss have been taken care of definitely does not belong to the takafu company. It is redistributed back to those of them that might not have claimed within that insurance period. So let's just proceed. I want to use this slide as an illustration of everything I've said in that slide, so that we can see it diagrammatically. What we have seen here is the risk fund. That box is the risk fund that every participant in the takafu pool is contributing into. And this risk fund can be it could be across several classes of takafu insurance policy. It could be motor policy, it could be fire and special peril policy, it could be goods in transit policy, and of course it could be a family takafu fund, where of course it combines savings, investment, and insurance protection. But what we are saying here is that this risk fund is the pool of funds the participants are contributing into. All those individuals you see are participants. So you could see contribution going into the risk fund. So they are pulling their risk together into that risk fund, but they can't manage it themselves. So what happens? They engage services of a takafu operator to manage that on their behalf. Now, if there is a loss within that insurance period, like I mentioned earlier, those red faces you see are the people within the takafu insurance period that have suffered a loss. And what happens to them? They are indemnified from that same risk fund that each and every one of them have pulled together. So they are put back in their position because, of course, they have suffered a loss within that insurance period. What happens thereafter? Like I mentioned, this risk fund is managed by the takafu operator. So these contributors have now appointed the fund manager, who is the Takafu operator, to manage that risk fund on their behalf. First, to settle claims or to compensate for people that might have suffered a loss. What happens thereafter? Because the question will always be that in this risk fund that is pooled by the participant under a Takafu arrangement, how does the Takafu operator earn their own income? Yes, it speaks to the type of model the Takafu operator has adopted in managing that fund. But by and large, the Takafu operator charges that risk fund a wakala fee. That's a management fee in managing that on their behalf. So that is a way in which the Takafu operator, is paid for managing that fund on their behalf. And at the end of the day, when claims have been settled and there are, we have in that risk fund some funds that have not been used, that fund does not go to the Takafu operator. Rather, it is redistributed among those participants that do not suffer a loss as surplus. That's where we see here that we said refund of surplus. So the only way the Takafu operator earns from that fund is charging their own management fee. So this just speaks to a diagrammatic illustration of the Takafu operation itself. Now, what are the key principles? And what are the key principles when it comes to Takafu operation? And compared to conventional insurance, what are the differences? I've mentioned some part of it earlier, a risk transfer mechanism for Takafu model, of course, a risk transfer mechanism for conventional insurance. But let's dip it down a little. When we look at Takafu, the principle behind Takafu operation speaks to, number one, mutual cooperation. That's ta'awun, mutual cooperation amongst the participants. They are coming together to guarantee themselves against any loss. So there is that mutual cooperation amongst them. And we can see that we can see that in one of the verses of the Quran when Allah says, ta'awanu alal birri wa taqwa wa la ta'awanu alal ismi wal udwan, that we should cooperate amongst ourselves in righteousness and in good deeds. We should not cooperate amongst ourselves in sins and transgression. So that is the mutual cooperation aspect under which Takafu model thrives. Again, there is shared responsibilities amongst the participants because each of them they are donating into the common pool. That's the risk fund that is managed for them on behalf, that is managed by the Takafu operator on their behalf to settle claims of any of them that might suffer a loss or even redistribute surplus when there is something left in that risk fund at the end of that insurance period. Then Takafu is very transparent. And most importantly, it avoids some elements that are inherent in the conventional insurance practice. What are those elements? We have riba in conventional insurance, which is interest. We have garar. Garar simply means excessive uncertainty. Then we have maisir, which simply means gambling. This, of course, I can add a fourth to it, which is investment that are not ethical. So when it comes to Takafu operation, riba, interest, garar, excessive uncertainty, and maisir, gambling, are totally eliminated from a Takafu arrangement, which now makes it halal, which makes it permissible compared to what we have in the conventional insurance practice. Then when we look at some other areas, we'll see that Takafu is an ethical form of insurance and it's not all about profits. It's more about mutual cooperation and shared responsibility, whereas in the conventional insurance, it's mostly profit-driven and it's purely a risk transfer mechanism. Let's proceed. Now, this illustration speaks to what I've just said, and it will give us a very clear-cut understanding of what Takafu is. So when we look at conventional insurance and when we look at those objectionable elements, which is garar, maisir, and riba, when we now filter that from a typical conventional insurance practice, what we have is Takafu. So what this slide is speaking to is that when we look at insurance at the left side, when we filter garar, maisir, and riba from it, what we have filtered, what comes out of that tap is Takafu, and Takafu is permissible and is halal. So the contract of donation that Takafu speaks to filters out the objectionable elements in a typical conventional insurance practice and makes it permissible and makes it allowed for us, to engage in. So So in a Takafu arrangement, unique proposition about a Takafu arrangement, there's what we call fund separation part of it. Simply put, the Takafu operator shareholders fund is managed separately from the contribution being pulled together by this participant to ensure one particular asset or property, or even take up a life insurance that we call family Takafu.
I think we can no longer hear you. Mr. Ismail, we can no longer hear if you're still okay. Okay, I suspect that there's okay. Your mic is muted if you're speaking, Mr. Ismail. Your mic is muted.
So I'm unmuted. Please, can you hear me now?
Yes, clearly, we can hear you. I
Okay,
suspect that.
let me just quickly reshare the screen. I think I was
Okay,
having some
okay.
issues doing all of that.
Okay.
Let me quickly
Okay.
reshare and I continue from. So please, can you see my screen now?
Yes, clearly, we can see your screen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I was now trying to say that when it comes to Takafu operation, there's a clear-cut fund separation that allows the Takafu operator to ensure that whatever happens within the confines of the Takafu fund, that is the contribution coming from the participants as a result of the Takafu insurance policies they've bought, that fund cannot be mixed with the shareholders fund of the Takafu operator. And that fund is what is meant for the payment of claims to whoever has suffered a loss and to equally redistribute surplus at the end of the insurance period. Of course, when that fund is, when we have excess in that fund after claims have been settled. Then, of course, surplus distribution is very unique to Takafu operation, which is why it speaks to a very good business orientation. When, of course, you do not make a claim as a participant, you might be eligible to surplus clawback, provided that particular portfolio of business is profitable. And that speaks to equity and fairness, which of course is the hallmark of Islamic financial transaction. So that as it may, let me now quickly go to the product that we have in No Takafu, and equally speaks to No Takafu as one of the Takafu operator in Nigeria. Coincidentally, in 2016, when NICOM, the National Insurance Commission, was able to come out with a clear-cut guideline for Takafu operation in Nigeria, the likes of No Takafu, Jais Takafu were able to lash on that, and both companies were licensed in 2016. But coincidentally, No Takafu happens to be the first to be licensed as a full-fledged indigenous composite Takafu operator in May 2016. So in 2017, we began full operation. Of course, we use Takafu principle for the model of Takafu for all of our businesses, regulated by the National Insurance Commission, and most importantly, by the Sharia Advisory Council, who sees to the operation of the Takafu the operation to ensure that all of the aspects of those operations are compliant with the principle of Sharia. At the regulators, at the level of the regulators too, they have their own Sharia Takafu Advisory Council. Of course, No Takafu is a composite Takafu operator. We operate both general and family Takafu. General, like we have general insurance in the conventional wing. Then family takafu, which is a replica of life insurance in the conventional insurance wing. And what insurance speaks to, when an insurance company cannot, absorb a huge risk, and an insurance company needs to do a reinsurance. We have similar thing in the takafu wing, where of course a re-takafu arrangement is arranged for risk of enormous beyond the capacity of the insurance company. So we have the support of African re-takafu wing that does our re-takafu arrangements. Of course, I've spoken to surplus distribution, which is something that we have distributed consistently in no-takafu since we started operation in 2017. Then we have our core values. I won't dwell much on that. We have our mission and vision. I won't dwell much on that because of time, but I will just proceed to show us when we started operation in 2017, our track record, so that when you intend to partner with no-takafu or do business with no-takafu or buy takafu insurance policy from no-takafu, you will have seen what we've done over time. In 2017, when we started operation and we were able to write just a 217 million gross written contribution. And as of 2024, we've grown our business to about 9.9 billion. These are pure contributions coming from participants as a result of the takafu policies they have bought from us. And by extension, we have equally distributed surplus, which is a unique selling proposition for takafu companies. When we started in 2017, we have consistently distributed this surplus, and we've distributed surpluses down to 2023. So that simply puts, based on this slide, we've distributed close to over close to R1 billion in surplus since we started operation. We've grown our businesses from 273 million in 2017 to 9.9, close to 10 billion in 2024. And as we speak, we've done close to about 14 billion in gross contribution written. So be that as it may, what are the products that we think by the special grace of God, inshallah, is going to be beneficial to this group? I want to take it from the aspect of life insurance. And in life insurance, looking at it from the takafu perspective, we refer to it as family takafu. So what are some of the products that we have under family takafu that will be beneficial to this group, individuals in this group, and also the group as a whole? We are aware that there are some, especially with the new Insurance Act that was just signed into law by the federal government. We call it Naira 2025. The Naira 2025 speaks to the Nigerian Insurance Industry Reform Act. It's a new act that has been signed into law, and it has emphasized some insurance policies that even before now have been made compulsory, but they've not been enforced. Now with this new act, enforcement is going to be activated. One is a group life insurance. Group life insurance. In the takafu way, we call it group family takafu. A group life insurance is a compulsory insurance that should be taken by an employer of labor on behalf of his employees.
Hello, bye, Ibrahim.
I
I'm not
guess
sure we can hear the speaker.
no, I can't hear him. Okay,
Okay.
I guess the network glitch.
Maybe while we are waiting for the speaker to join again, we can just be having some background recitation.
وكم أهلكنا قبلهم من قرن هم أشد منهم بطشا فنقبوا في البلاد هل من محيص إن في ذلك لذكرى لمن كان له قلب أو ألقى السمع وهو شهيد ولقد خلقنا السماوات والأرض وما بينهما في 6 أيام وما مسنا من لغوب فاصبر على ما يقولون وسبح بحمد ربك قبل طلوع الشمس وقبل الغروب ومن الليل فسبحه وأدبار السجود واستمع يوم ينادي المناد من مكان قريب يوم يسمعون الصيحة بالحق ذلك يوم الخروج إنا نحن نحيي ونميت وإلينا المصير يوم تشقق الأرض عنهم سراعا ذلك حشر عليهم يسير نحن أعلم بما يقولون وما أنت عليهم بجبار فذكر بالقرآن من يخاف وعيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والذاريات ذروا فالحاملات وقرا فالجاريات يسرا فالمقسمات أمرا إنما توعدون لصادق وإن الدين لواقع والسماء ذات الحبك إنكم لفي قول مختلف يؤفك عنه من أفك قتل الخراصون الذين هم في غمرة ساهون
Okay, Mr. Ismail, I guess you're back.
I'm really sorry. I'm back. I don't know what happens to
No
my
problem. We
that
can
network.
understand.
That's what I use normally, but I don't know why it has just disappointed itself. So let me just quickly share back so I can continue from where I stopped. So please, can you see my screen now?
Yes, please. You can go ahead. We can see your screen.
Okay, thank you so much. So I was speaking about the group life insurance, which is a compulsory insurance, and what does it cover? It is incepted by an employer on behalf of his employee, and it covers death in active service of the employer to the tune of 3 times the annual emolument of that employee. That is what the Act says, but it's not restricted to a formalized employment alone. It can equally be taken by associations, organizations, clubs, and society as it were. But because in organization, clubs, and society, it's not about paid employment, where, of course, the emolument can be used to determine the benefit that goes to the beneficiary. Rather, the clubs and association can then decide on an amount as the benefits for their members. Then the insurance company, which is the Takafu operator, will now calculate what is the contribution they are going to pay that will enable the beneficiary of such a member get that amount if peradventure that member dies or even suffers disability as a result of accident or illness. So that is what the scheme covers in its entirety. But I've done a simple illustration here just to put it into perspective of assuming in a group of ours, we have a benefit that is 1 million naira, 2.5 million, even down to 10 million naira. What could be the contribution rate? It could be as small as 6,000 per member to a 1 million benefit, 15,000 to 2.5 million benefits, or even 60,000, which is a little on the high side, to a 10,000 million benefit. That is if there is a scenario of death, which is always the primary cover when it comes to a group family scheme or a group life scheme, as it were. Added to death, which is the primary cover, we could have other add-ons or riders in areas of permanent disability, critical illness, or spouse death, and even more than that, that can be incorporated into the primary cover. And of course, we come around with what is the contribution going to look like. So that is a scheme which is a pure life insurance scheme, which in the Takafu model we call a group family scheme. Is a statutory scheme, is a compulsory insurance, and even with this new Naira Act, it is being enforced that if somebody has an employer of labor and he has minimum of 3 or more employees, in addition to the pension scheme incepted for such employee, this group life insurance is equally compulsory. And like I said, it trickles down to associations and clubs, and these benefits could be chosen to what we might suit members of such an association or club. Now, this is a typical scenario of what has happened. I just brought this. We have so many of it in our portfolio, but I've just brought this to explain to us situations that has happened to associations that actually incepted this type of group family cover. And we have 2 members, specifically in April 2021 and December 2021, that died. And of course, they are under this scheme. We paid a death benefit of 5 million and the permanent disability benefit of 5 million to these 2 members. And of course, the contribution both of them paid annually was just 36,000. Of course, the total contribution that the scheme paid on behalf of all their members was just about 353,000. But when the incident happened to 2 of their members that were under this scheme, we paid a total of 10 million to both of them, not minding what their contribution was. Why was it so? We have said that insurance is all about pooling resources of the many together to compensate the unfortunate few amongst them that might suffer a lot. The same way in a Takafu agreement that we call a joint guarantee, where of course participants pool their resources together, willingly donate their contribution into the Tabaru pool to compensate the few of them that might suffer a loss or even redistribute back to members that might not have suffered any loss when that insurance period expires. So this is just a live case scenario that happened that I've decided to bring into this conversation, maybe to put that group family scheme into perspective. So that is for groups. We can look at some other plans that we have that is channeled to individuals beyond group, where of course individuals can now go into a scheme that will benefit him over a period, and while he's contributing for that purpose, assuming the inevitable happens, death, of course, there will be some guaranteed amount of money that will be paid to his named beneficiary. And we have those schemes in different durations. For example, this particular one which is Nur Pro-Safe Family Takaful Plan, is a scheme that is just meant for a duration of 12 months. It's a short-term plan, and one can use it to plan for events that you want to do in a year's time, either payment of house rent, purchase of property, you know, anything that you can accumulate money for over a period of time, and you'll be able to access that money at the end of that period and use it for that purpose. This is what this particular scheme is meant for. And it is individual in nature. It is the individual that will key into it. So it's a short-term plan to assist participants to build substantial capital through regular savings of small amount on a monthly, quarterly, biannual, or annual basis. Minimum contribution on a monthly basis is 10,000, but you can contribute on the basis of what you can afford or what you want your target to be at the end of that period. I might decide to say, okay, my own is 200,000 per month, and in the next 12 months, I will have contributed a 2.4 million, either to pay my house rent or buy a particular, you know, landed property. A whole lot of what money can be used for. You know, you can use this scheme to plan for it. So far, you are within the insurable age of 18 and 65 years. This is a very good plan. So it's more of an investment plan rather than a protection plan. But at the same way, in the same vein, it's operated on the principle of course, Takaful, which put into consideration savings, number two, investment, and of course, protection, you know, a financial protection, you know, it takes care of that. Beyond this Nur Pro-Safe Family Travel Plan, for those of us probably that have not gone to Hajj and are willing to go to Hajj, we have another scheme, which is Nur Pilgrimage Family Takaful Plan, which individual can latch on to and be saving in piecemeal in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, purposely to go for Hajj. So the idea will be, how much is Hajj fare? Maybe in the next 1 year, I break it down into a monthly contribution and I begin to save for that purpose, so that in a year's time, I collect my accumulated savings, go through an agency, pay for my Hajj fare, and I'll be able to go to Hajj comfortably. We have a scheme like that too. So it ranges from 1 year and above, and it is channeled towards ensuring that one is able to use that platform to go for Hajj by saving at your convenience in piecemeal. Now, we have another scheme, quickly, that is more than a year, not really meant for Hajj, not 12-month duration, but minimum of 2 years duration. That's 24 months, which of course you can say, okay, in the next 2 years, I'm focusing on engaging on this particular project, embarking on this particular project, want to use this money for this social purpose, and within the next 24 months, I want to save for that purpose. Particularly when I'm using this scheme as an individual, for the purpose I might want to use it for in the next 24 months, I'm not only saving, investment is not, the money is not only being invested, which we accrue profit at the end of it all, but of course, I have some level of Takaful insurance cover, so that if I have the intention of contributing, let's say, for example, a 5 million in 2 years, and I was not able to contribute that 5 years, inevitable by way of death or disability happens. Yes, all things being equal, my beneficiary in this case might be able to get that sum of 5 million, which is going to be what I've contributed so far and my future contribution. Because again, we are talking of a situation of joint guarantee. And out of my monthly or quarterly contribution, a very minute amount will be taken from it and donated into the Tabaru pool that will serve as joint guarantee for all participants within that pool. So that should, in case a misfortune, death, for example, happens, what I just mentioned now, I want to contribute 5 million. I was not able to do that. Death in between, my beneficiary plus or minus will be able to get that 5 million. This type of scheme takes care of that. Beyond that, a longer duration, which we put into perspective situations where, of course, not group now, but we are talking about individual. I want to plan for a period of 5 years, either for the purpose of my children's education or for some other purposes that I'm planning for, contingency plan as a family man in the next 5 years. What comes to my mind in schemes like this, which runs for a minimum duration of 5 years, is that I'm not only saving and investing for myself, but I'm equally saving and investing for the protection of my family, so that in between the line, if the inevitable happens, they will be able to have some financial cushion in terms of a substantial lump sum of money that will be paid to them by the Takaful company if that inevitable happens. That is on one side. On the other side is a two-in-one thing. I'm able to save consistently for that period, and at the end of that period, when the plan matures, my savings and investment plus my returns by way of profit, I will equally be able to recoup it and use it for that purpose. So it's having two purposes: serving a purpose of saving and investment for myself for future use, and equally having a protection for my family should, in case of the eventuality happening, and they will be able to get some lump sum, which is the worth of this plan over the period of choosing, that will be paid to them as a compensation. So this plan, both Edu plan and Progress plan, takes care of that. And it runs for a minimum duration of 5 years, and it can be beyond 5 years. So these are a couple of the life insurance plan, or what we call the family Takaful plans under Takaful, that individuals can latch onto to plan effectively for them and members of their family. The one I mentioned earlier, which was the first scheme, that speaks to us as a group that we can latch on and we can key into as a group, so that if any of our member, dies, for example, or suffers a disability, as a group, there's that compensation that goes to the beneficiary, to the family of such a member, or the beneficiary of such a member. But beyond that, have we now spoken to schemes that runs for a year, 2 years, 5 years, that individuals could latch on, which will serve as a savings and investment scheme for them, and at the same time give them some form of a financial guarantee, assuming a mishap happens to that breadwinner, as it were. So all of this together are some of the plans we have under our scheme in the Family Takaful, portfolio, that group individuals like ours can use specifically to plan financially for ourselves. Beyond all of this that I've mentioned, I would just quickly want to mention this, and this one speaks to not a scheme that we want to use in planning for ourselves or as a group in terms of savings and investment and financial protection, but rather we are not talking about how do we insure our property, how do we insure our assets, because the Takaful model, or no Takaful as a Takaful operator in Nigeria, is a composite Takaful operator that does both general Takaful and family Takaful. Now, in the aspect of insuring our property and assets, what is most conversant to all of us, as workers or as entrepreneurs, that we will have our car, our vehicle that we use. And for our vehicles, like I mentioned in the new Naira Act, there are some insurance that are compulsory. One of it is third-party motor insurance. Third-party motor insurance is a compulsory insurance that is now being enforced by this new act, that every motor owner, or every vehicle owner in Nigeria that will be driving on the road must have. Minimally, when you have your car and you are doing your car documentation, minimally you must insert a third-party insurance for your vehicle. So whatever third-party insurance that you are aware of in the convention is the same third-party insurance that we have under the Takaful model of insurance. So the certificate is legitimate across board. But beyond the third-party motor insurance, the peak of motor insurance cover when it comes to vehicle insurance is comprehensive. And like it is regulated from NICOM, when you have your vehicle, depending on the worth of your vehicle, and you want to insert a comprehensive motor cover on it, it is always 5% of the value of that vehicle. That is the contribution of the premium that you are going to pay as an insurance cover for that vehicle for the next 1 year. What does it cover when you do that? Number one, it covers accidental bodily injury to the third party. It covers accidental damage to the third party property, damage to your own vehicle, as a result of fire, then malicious damage to your own vehicle too, which of course additional benefits that could lead to this malicious damage is clearly stated here. Strike, riot, excess buyback, free tracking, those are additional benefits. Of course, death to the third party, theft of the covered vehicle, attempted theft. I mean, when we say comprehensive, it's all encompassing. So it covers everything about your vehicle and even the third party vehicle that you might hit on the road. But like I mentioned, when it comes to this vehicle insurance, the list is third party, and that is compulsory. And third-party motor insurance today in Nigeria, whether it is conventional or takafu, for private vehicle usage, the contribution, the premium per annum is 15,000 naira. So we can think along this direction and look at, okay, for our vehicles too, beyond the family takafu policies I've explained, for our vehicles too, if we want to insure our vehicles, this is the halal way, this is the takafu way. And of course, whatever certificate we are giving you at that point is legitimate, is statutory, like any other conventional insurance will give you. An added advantage to this is now that at the end of the insurance period, you do not make a claim. Tendency is that at least you get something back by way of surplus. So I think I will want to stop at this. Thank you so much. I want to believe that I've been able to speak to a couple of products that I feel will be beneficial to us. And I equally hope and feel that I've been able to speak to takafu as a model of insurance that is Sharia compliant. And like we have it in Nigeria today, coincidentally, we know takafu is the pioneer of such in Nigeria. We have close to 5 other takafu companies in Nigeria doing the same thing that we do. And several other, several other promoters are hoping to get licensed as takafu operators in Nigeria. So on that note, I want to stop here and equally say thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I want to believe that with all that I've said so far, there will definitely be questions to be asked. And when this question comes up, maybe it will throw more light on everything that I've said. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ismail. I think it's been quite expository. I mean, I've heard a couple of things that I never knew before now. So we thank you for this beautiful session. So please, if you have questions, we can either drop on the chat or we raise our hand to unmute so that I can unmute you to take our questions. But of course, as we all know that death is inevitable, like he said during the course of the lecture. I mean, we have seen quite a couple of, so therefore it's very important that as Muslims, we do the right thing by protecting our families and dependents. I mean, when we are gone, and allow that this takafu gives us an halal way to do that exactly. That allows us to leave behind financial security and not debt burden on our dependents. So at this point, we'd like to take questions, perhaps if there are any. But while we're doing that, I want to ask Mr. Ismail. So for someone who already has an existing takafu or an existing insurance, perhaps maybe not with the Islamic one and maybe probably the conventional, is it possible to have more than one insurance?
Thank you very much. In insurance, whether it is conventional or takafu, it is not allowed for you to insert 2 different policies for the same subject matter or the same asset or property. So if you have an
Okay, I think okay, you're back. All right.
Okay. And when you now want to renew, you can now leave the conventional company and come and renew with us in takafu. Because while an insurance policy is running, until it expires, you can't incept another cover for that same property. But that is for general insurance. For life insurance, which is family takafu, if you have a life policy running with a conventional company, you can have an additional family takafu with a takafu company is allowed, because life insurance policies are benefit policies, and you can have as many life insurance policies as possible. So that is allowed when, of course, if you have the financial strength to incept a takafu company, so that when that of the conventional expires and you get your benefit, you can now shift totally to takafu. So two things. For general insurance, general takafu insurance, you cannot incept a cover for a property that is currently under insurance until it expires, and at renewal, you can now shift from the conventional to takafu. But for life insurance, you can have several policies under life insurance. So if you have the financial muscle, even while you have a conventional life insurance running, you can now come and take up a family takafu policy, and it will be running concurrently, so that when that of the conventional expires, you can now divert everything back to takafu. I hope I've been able to answer your question.
Yes, please. That's clear. That's clear. Okay, we're looking to have questions.
Yes, how am I come to life?
Wa alaikum salam.
Okay, so my question speaks to the life insurance.
All right, sir.
Let me say two folds. So number one is that the group life insurance said we come together like a mutual contribution, and those people that had risk will be settled, but at the end of the year, the remaining will be shared. Now, I want to ask, the mutual, for example, an association like Las Omega, let's assume we have like 20 or 30 people in that scheme. Is it going to be based on what we contributed in that in Las Omega to determine what maybe 1 or 2% that have risk during the period of contribution we get, or it will go beyond Las Omega and other maybe groups that are also in the same product within the new takafu family? That's the number one question. Then the number two question is, the life insurance funds, is it always invested, or is it kept as, okay, maybe the Ukala, or what do you call them, will take their own management fee, then the remaining funds is what we are going to play around with in that particular scheme?
Okay, thank you very much.
I hope the question is clear, sir.
Yes, I got the two questions very well. So for the first question, for a group life scheme or a group family takafu scheme, let me use your group as an example. Assuming you have 30 people or 50 people in your group, you can decide to choose what a uniform contribution and a uniform benefit. Take, for example, a 1 million benefits to a contribution of 6,000. So the 50 members in that group, that will be 6 times 50. That will be the contribution that will be paid. And of course, the benefit to each member of that scheme is ₦1 million. God sparing our lives, assuming any of the member, dies within that period, that means the beneficiary will be given ₦1 million by, of course, no takafu as a takafu operator. Now, let's assume we have that scheme running and we have a claim before that policy matures in 12 months. Because it is a group scheme and a claim has been made, surplus will not come up again, because it's either claim or surplus. But assuming this scheme was incepted and for the next 12 months, all things being equal, no claim. So that's simply put, that means when surplus is to be shared, because there is no claim, the group will be eligible for surplus. But we are not looking at that surplus in isolation of the group alone. We are looking at the surplus in combination of all group life scheme or group family takafu scheme that we have with us. So it's a portfolio on its own. Your own, several other groups that have equally inserted similar group family cover are going to be considered at the expiration of 12 months on whether surplus is available to be distributed and in what quantum. The fact that your group have not made any claim, and of course, other groups might have made a claim, but if we now have any amount left in that common pool, that is what will now be shared back as surplus. And in this case, because your own group did not make a claim, you'll be eligible to the payment of that surplus. So that is pertaining to your first question, hoping that maybe I'm able to give an answer to that based on what you've asked. Then number two, which is the investment of the contribution coming on the family Takaful individual scheme. Yes, because it's a plan where you contribute regularly over a period of time, which could be a year, which could be 2 years, which could even be 5 years. As those contributions are coming, definitely the contributions are being invested. But like I mentioned too, the operator is going to charge your contribution a certain wakala fee, administrative fee, which is going to, it could be 5% of the contribution that is coming in as the wakala fee charged by the operator. Whatever is remaining is what now goes into investment that will yield the profit that will accrue on your accumulated savings over time. So that when it matures, it will now be your accumulated savings plus your returns on investment by way of profit that will be paid as your benefit at maturity. The other side of it is that this contribution has been going on, death happens on this individual scheme. So it will not be that what you have contributed over time before death and the profit that has accrued on that investment over time. That is one aspect of the payment that goes to your beneficiary. The second aspect that will be paid to your beneficiary will be your expected contribution, assuming you are alive for the remaining period. It will equally be summed up by the Takaful operator, and that money will be paid as an additional compensation to your named beneficiary. Why? Because a certain portion of your contribution over time has been remitted to the Tabaru purse, to the donation purse, which is to serve for that mutual guarantee, that solidarity, and for the payment of death benefits when any of such a participant dies. I hope my two answers to your question clarifies your thought on that.
Yes, it does. Thanks so much. So just for more clarity, what it implies is that if, for example, in Lasumeka, we have 20 of our members in that scheme, and maybe like the quarter of Allah, 2 or 3 of them has to benefit from the life insurance scheme. So when you are not distributing the surplus, Lasumeka members will not be considered in the surplus because their members has benefited.
Have benefited by way of claims.
Okay, so it's the group that will not benefit because 1 or 2 members of their members have benefited, right?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Play now. Thank you so much.
So we call it a win-win situation. You win either by claims payments and you equally win either by surplus if there is no claim.
Okay, thank you so much. Then, sorry, let me ask one more question. If, for example, we have like 20 members of Lasmega in that scheme, our entrepreneurs, our business owners, people that are just into their own things, and is there a limit to the number of members that can benefit? You know, is central. Like, give us a case study of the total contribution of a particular group is 353,000. And at the end of the day, the group benefited 10 million naira, 2 of their members, 10 million naira, meaning that competition from other groups is what they have benefited
Playing
from.
A part here, exactly.
Yes, I mean, because the money will not come from, the money would not just multiply. You know, somebody would have donated it for them to have benefited, just like the way they are donating too. So I want to ask, is there a limit to the number of people in a group that can benefit? You understand? Maybe if you have 20 members, it's only 1 or 2 of your members that can benefit to, or we can, if you even have casualty up to 10, the 10 of them can still benefit, just that clarity.
Inshallah, by the special grace of God, we will not have such a casualty.
Inshallah.
Assuming such a scenario happens, all 10 members are going to benefit, provided the scheme is still running. It has its own duration, which is 12 months, provided it is still running, irrespective whether it is 2 or 10 people that have suffered this loss, their beneficiaries are going to be adequately compensated. So there is no limit to the number of members that could benefit. If the incident happens within the period of that insurance, the liability on the Takaful company to pay the beneficiary of such will be carried out. The only thing that will not make the Takaful company to pay is when the policy has expired. It is a 12-month policy.
Yeah.
So if it expires, that means we'll be talking of renewal for the next 1 month, for the next 1 year.
1 year.
But within the period of that insurance, if any of the members suffers this risk, definitely that compensation will be paid. Like the scenario we are seeing here is just 2 of them that suffered within that period. Assuming there are 10, those 10 beneficiaries will equally be paid.
Okay. I don't know if you have any further questions, because I want to also ask. So maybe one more question anyway. I want to give them to others if they have. If I go ahead, do you have anyone raising up his hand?
I can't see any hands up right now. President, you can go ahead, sir.
I can go ahead. Okay, thank you. So this is just as an association, and from the experience I've had past 1 to 2 years in the organization as one of the main stakeholders, is that we have some of our members that are deceased. They've returned to Allah. May Allah forgive them. May Allah shower His mercy upon them and bless all what they left behind. So, like, they left children.
Okay, President, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
I think that's network. Okay, so while we wait for the President to reconnect, the floor is still open for questions. The floor is still open for questions. Okay, let me ask a question before the President comes back. So, Mr. Ismail, my question is for those of us that have, if we're to do child insurance, right? So what are the requirements? What are the things to be looked at if you need to insure the education maybe from primary to secondary, what are the considerations and what's the minimum that we can actually put in?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me start from the minimum. The minimum is actually 10,000 per month. But what you need to consider is how much do you actually want to accumulate for the purpose of their future education. We all know what the price of education, price of school fees and co is now. So you can decide on, this is the amount I'm looking at in the next 5 years, for example. That will now be broken down into a monthly contribution. Now, if that is done, how do you go about it? Of course, we'll send you a proposal form to complete. That's to elicit details of the scheme itself, your own details, and of course, the details of the child that you want to benefit, you want the scheme to benefit. When the proposal form will be completed, the normal KYC requirements, a KYC form, your passport, the passport of the child or the children, your NIN or a valid means of identification and your utility bill. All those KYC requirements, in addition to the proposal form completed. When that is done, we advise you to the account of the company you pay to, based on what you agreed to be paying on a monthly basis for the next 5 years. And with that, the cover will be incepted and a policy certificate will be issued to you maximum in a week when the first payment has been made. Simply put, your contribution will now be coming in on a monthly or quarterly basis based on the period you've chosen, and the scheme will keep running. So that when it matures, like I explained earlier, your total contribution plus your profits will be your payout, your benefit payout. And assuming the inevitable happens, let's assume it is 10 million you are looking at in 5 years, all things being equal, it will not be the payment you've made over time plus the profit and the expected contribution for the remaining period. What that simply translated to is that the liability on us as a Takaful operator is to the tune of your total contribution for the purpose of your child's education. The addition that could come on that will be by way of profit that will accrue to your investment over time.
Okay.
I hope I answered your question.
You did. I think the president is back. I think you did. Thank you so much. Okay, Engineer Saba, you have the floor, sir. I think you can unmute yourself.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you. And you are muted. Oh.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, apologies. So it was my network. Apologies about that. So I think I had some of the response he gave. But okay, what I was just trying to ask is that, is there a scheme whereby someone or maybe the group can cater for school fees of maybe some of our widows or widowers? Maybe we have someone amongst us that's returned to Allah. He has children, he has wife, right? And then they have to keep paying bills. Is there a scheme whereby maybe the individual can cater for it for a period of time after his demise, and maybe the group can come in and say, okay, we can be doing it this way, and at the end of the day, the scheme will just take care of the fees of those children? Do you have that kind of is there a product for that?
Okay. Two ways in which we can address that. I think I've mentioned one, and that would be the individual plan. Assuming the disease has incepted an individual education plan before his death, the worth of that plan will be used for the children's education after his demise. But he does not have such. Could the association after his demise now look at what option to adopt in catering for the education of the deceased children? I think in a scenario like that, except the association decide to now incept a cover, more like an investment plan of a year or 2 years, which of course, at the end of every year, they can, at the end of every year, they can access that fund for the purpose of those children's education. Or a 2-year scheme, which at the end of every year, they can do a partial withdrawal for the purpose of those children's education, and it will continue that way. So that is another angle within which, or a solution I think I can prefer, considering the scheme that we have. If we look at it from the group family plan or the group life, that one is a lump sum payment that goes to the beneficiary of the deceased after his death. And of course, the lump sum payment will be the tune of what the benefit is. It can't go beyond that. But for the continuous education of the deceased children, if the group can take it as a responsibility of incepting a scheme, it could be a blanket scheme that will cover maybe all of the deceased children, which you can be liquidating every year for that purpose, and restarting a year. It could be a year scheme. At the end of the year, you liquidate it for that purpose. you run it for another year, you liquidate it for that purpose. I think based on your question and what we have in our portfolio, I think this is the best solution that can come to my head now. I can think of some other things maybe later, but what has come to my head based on the question you've asked and considering the schemes we have, I think this is the solution I can profile for now. I wouldn't know whether that,
helps. Yeah, it does. It does. So this just
it's
to open the
practicable.
conversation. Yes, this is just to open the conversation. So we are going to have more conversations as time goes by, so that we can see how the group, the association can benefit. Of course, our association is like perpetual because every year we have more members. Once you are a graduate or a Muslim student, you are a member of our association. So we have quite a number of us across, and most of us located different parts of the world. So we keep the engagement open. We'll see how much we can make best use of it. We've had experience over time. So we've checked our records and we've seen that where we think some of these products, not just the one that has to do with life insurance, will actually be beneficial for our members. So inshallah, let's see where we take it up from here. Jazakumullah khairan for showing up and for this detailed expository lecture.
Thank you so much. And I think of course, I have the people that I liaise with directly. I think the president, and so that how we can the action plan, how we can take it further when, of course, we are ready to do one or two things. We can always communicate.
Yes, there will be two of us. There will be me, myself, and Brother Ibrahim, the moderator. So he's the secretary of the association. So he's the one putting up the documentations, and he has all the records within his purview. So we'll take it. We won't stop here. We'll definitely take it forward, inshallah.
Yeah, that make it easy, inshallah.
So someone is asking on the chat, how can we contact Takaful in case we need to take up any plans? Any physical office?
Yes, we have our head office in Lagos here at Bagada, number 170 Bagada Expressway, Bagada. Of course, we have branches across the country. We have in Ibadan, we have in Port Harcourt, we have in Kano, we have in Kaduna, we have in Abuja, we have in Akure. So details of our office and of course, how we can, the phone numbers and even the email address, I will share with the president so that we can have it at our beck and call. And for me too, I can be contacted directly. I can leave my phone number on the group chats. Coincidentally, I'm the CMO, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Notakafu. So I can equally be contacted directly for any of the policy we might want to purchase.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ismail. We really appreciate your time and efforts to explain all of this to you. We'd like to take the president closing a vote of thanks before we say the closing dua.
Okay, so Jazakumullah khairan, Alhaji Ismail. We really appreciate your time. The lecture is insightful. In fact, it breaks down the principle of Takafu and makes some practical clarifications of the applications. We really appreciate it that you're able to demonstrate the Sharia compliance aspect of it, the transparency of it, and the mutual cooperation and protection in which Takafu embodies in the life of a Muslim. So to all our participants, Jazakumullah khairan for joining the session. As you can see, that this is Islamic financial tool for us. So please let us embrace it. Let us advocate for it. And let us also implement it in our personal lives. To all our entrepreneurs, please, let's select Takafu Life Insurance for our employees, right? Also for ourselves and our businesses. So we thank everyone for joining the session, and I also want to thank the Las Mega family for showing up, and all the members of the executives again for their presence and the organization of this session. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless all our endeavors and make this knowledge that we have gained today a source of barakah in our lives. With no takafu, we look forward to further and more engagement, inshallah, bi-qudratillah. And inshallah, will be part of this framework to benefit our members. May Almighty also forgive all our members that have returned to Allah and bless all what they have left behind. You know, we have widows, we have widowers, we have orphans in our midst, whom one or two of our members, some of them are level mates, some of them are juniors, some of them are seniors. You know, they left behind when the time to return to Allah has come. We don't know when ours will be, but inshallah, we'll do our own best to make sure that what they left behind is in good shape. And we pray that when we are returning to Allah too, Allah will protect us and protect everything we'll be leaving behind. Jazakumullah khairan once again for attending this session. I pray that Almighty Allah not make this the last for every one of us, and also make us attend many more of this. Jazakumullah khairan.
Thank you, everyone. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Thank you, everyone.
Brother Ismail, you can also you can put your contact and your email address in the chat group, so anyone that is interested can.
Yes,
I think he has done that already.
I've dropped my phone number
Okay.
on the chat.
Thank you, everyone.
Jazakumullah khairan.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.